What is it that he authorized? Take a look at chapter 3. And page 22. Does everybody see that? Look at the dialogue at the top of the page. Down to the middle.
Oh, wait, is it like him taking medicine?
Medicine, but there's something else too. And it may just be something that you are not familiar with.
Is it like the medicine like alters things?
Electroshock therapy. Saw that? And we still have electroshock therapy. So why does he feel like it's his fault? Why does he feel guilty? The questions, the treatments. Why is it hard to understand? Parker?
I feel like they're like spending too much time on it.
What do you mean?
Like they're like putting all like their resources and like making sure like he was okay, not really like worrying about his mother at all.
Oh, okay.
They kind of just like figured he was okay, they never really asked him like how he felt.
Well, we'll have to see how that played out. What happened? Because that's certainly a big mystery. What does it mean to be in control? And how do we react to when we are not in control? You have one of these? Okay. Excellent.
Actually, wait, I don't think I brought it.
How do we react when we're not in control? What happens to our mindset? When we lose control? When was the last time you lost control? I know I raised my voice and let out a string of profanities. The last time that I lost control. And afterwards I felt embarrassed. What causes us to feel like we've lost control? How do we react to that? How much control do we actually have? Think about your current status. Teenagers. And you're getting a little bit more control over certain things in your own life. How are you handling that? And I'll admit, not a lot. Not always a lot, right? How do we handle that gaining of control? Or do we really not have any control at all? Is this too deep for everybody? What's going on? Are you thinking? Are you at least thinking about how you might answer this question? Okay.
So there's only like certain things that we do at this point, and whenever we lose control, it's like we feel weak, like we can't do anything anymore. At least that's my opinion.
Good. Good. Not that it feels good to feel weak, right?
Right.
But, okay, Bart.
I mean, I don't really think we're like losing. I feel like it's like more of like testing the limits because like everything about your life is like already controlled by everyone else. Kind of just like seeing what you can do when you're losing control.
All right. Chapter 5. We're back to Conrad. The building is shabby. And inside, the lobby is hot and dark. He glances at his watch. Too dark in here to make out the numbers. The crisp and sunny day he's left outside has nearly blinded him. A directory on the far wall, he goes to it, scans the list of names, 11 in all, 7 with MD after them. The top name on the list is the one that he is looking for, T.C. Berger, MD 202. Would any of these guys be of use in an emergency? All specialists, podiatrists, optometrists, psychiatrists. But what if an accident were to happen in front of the building, or a mugging? It looks like a great neighborhood for muggings. Glancing at his watch again, he finds his eyes have adjusted to the dim light. 4 o'clock, exactly. Well then, get on it, no backing out now. An idea he's toyed with all week. Not going, just not showing up won't work. He's to meet his father at his office at 5:15. Don't be late, I've got a meeting tonight. I'd like to get out of there as close to 5 as I can. Translated, don't let the guy upset you. Show up when you're supposed to. It only takes 10 minutes to walk from Sherman and 10th to the plaza. I've clocked it. No, not fair. Not necessary to take everything so personally. He probably does have a meeting tonight. Everything's all right. Everything's fine. Keep it that way. On an even keel, as his grandfather would say. Stuck between the directory and the wall is a small white business card. I love you. Is this okay? Jesus C. The edges of it are furred, curved slightly inward, as if it has been there for a long time. He shakes his head, making for the staircase, forces a growl from the back of his throat. He's being strangled. In the narrow hallway on the second floor, a single light bulb burns, helpless against the invading gloom. High, old-fashioned doors with windows of bubbled glass in them, all dark on both sides of the hall, and looking as if they hadn't been used for years. Any people in this building? Is this an emergency? Even a podiatrist would do. Panic begins to settle in around him. At the end of the hall is a doorway with light behind it. He goes to it. The letters, stuck to the opaque glass with adhesive backing, spell out T.C. Berger, M.D. They slant upward, crooked rectangles, like a kid would print them on unlined paper. He pushes experimentally at the door, but it works on a heavy spring mechanism. Even when he turns the knob, it doesn't give. He pushes harder this time, and it opens. He steps inside. The door closes sharply behind him. He is in an entry, empty of people, longer than it is deep, with a chair in it, a floor lamp, a small table strewn with magazines, a green metal wastebasket. Barely furnished, the room still seems cluttered. Opposite him is a doorway. An overturned chair blocks it. From inside the other room, mysterious shuffling sounds are issuing. A scene of total disorder confronts him as he moves toward the door. Books, magazines, loose piles of paper are everywhere. Empty plastic cups, pieces of clothing, a cardboard box, "The Bakery," lettered in script on its lid, all tossed together in the middle of the floor. Several ashtrays are dumped upside down on the rug. A gooseneck lamp lies like a dead snake beside them. In the midst of it, a man stands bent over, his back to the doorway. As Conrad approaches, he turns. About him, there is the look of a crafty monkey. Dark skin, dark crinkly hair sprouting in tufts about his face, a body that hunches forward, an elongated question mark. "Wait," he says. "Don't tell me." Jared. The eyes, a compelling and vivid blue, beam into whatever they touch. They touch Conrad's face now, and the effect is that of being in an intense blue spotlight. He snaps his fingers. "Yeah, you look like somebody Crawford would send me. Somebody who's a match for my daring wit and inquiring mind." Conrad, cool and polite, asks, "Am I seeing you, or are you seeing me?" He laughs, delighted. "That ought to be easy. Is my office or yours?" "No, no good. Lots of guys in this business make house calls now. Let's see your appointment book." He steps over to his desk, rummaging fiercely for a minute. He comes up with a gray stenographer's notebook. "Here, Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Conrad Jared." "I knew it." He grins then. Conrad is not easily charmed or fooled. Eccentricity, a favorite put-on of psychiatrists. He does not trust them. Too many oddballs floating around the hospital. Only Crawford had behaved as if he knew what he was doing. He bends to pick up the overturned chair. "Bring that over here," Berger directs him. "Sit down." He continues to prowl around the room, lifting books, setting them aside, retrieving papers from the floor, stacking up empty plastic cups. On further examination, he resembles a compact, slightly undersized gorilla. Conrad cannot take his eyes off him. "I think I was ripped off this afternoon," he says, "or else the cleaning lady did one hell of a job on me. Place didn't look this bad when I left. Somebody was after drugs, I guess. What a neighborhood. Nothing but placebos here. Use them myself for quick energy sometimes. Just sugar." He smiles, arms raised, palms turned up in an attitude of perplexity. "You were robbed? Looks like. You gonna call somebody? Who? You mean cops?" He shrugs. "What's missing? Maybe nothing. Maybe they even left something. Who knows?" He moves to the small sink, half hidden in the corner behind a huge pile of books. "You want some coffee? Listen, do me a favor. Look on the desk there. See if you can find a data sheet. You know, name, age, date of birth, etc. Fill it out for me, will you? Got to keep records. The state says." "Rules," he says. He sighs. "Now, what am I supposed to do with those poor bastards lying on the floor, I ask you?" He indicates the overturned filing cabinet, its contents scattered. "Did you say yes or no?" "What? Coffee. Yes or no? Sit down, sit down." "No, thanks." Obediently, he goes to the desk, searches through the papers on top of it until he comes up with a blank information card. He begins to fill it out. Berger empties the other chair of debris and drags it over to the desk. "How long since you left the hospital?" "Month and a half." "Feeling depressed?" "No." "On stage?" "Pardon?" "People nervous?" "Treat you like you're a dangerous man?" He shrugs. "Yeah, a little, I guess." "And are you?" "I don't know." Berger grins then. "You look sensible enough to me. At least you looked sensibly disgusted when you walked in here. God, it is disgusting, isn't it? The second time this year. What do you think I ought to do about it?" He's used to this technique. He looks for psychological design in the question. No, too far-fetched. Nobody would go to this much trouble just to set up a test for it. He says, "I guess I'd just clean it up and forget about it." "Yeah, you're right. Christ, what a gigantic pain in the tail, though, huh?" The man sits back, fingers curved around his coffee cup, watching as Conrad finishes filling out the card. "Sure you don't want any coffee? I've got clean cups around here somewhere." Conrad shakes his head, hands him the card. He reads it quickly. Good, strong print, neat, like an engineer. "So, what are you doing here?" "You look like a healthy kid to me." "What I'm doing here," Conrad says, "is that I had to come." Berger nods. "Uh-huh." "Rules again. Authority reigns." He tosses the card onto the desk. "So suppose you didn't have to come. What would you be here for?" "I wouldn't." He finds himself firmly enveloped in the piercing blue gaze, shifts uncomfortably in the chair. "How long were you there?" 8 months. "What did you do? OD?" Make too much noise in the library? No. Looks steadily at the bookcase in front of him, floor to ceiling, jammed with books. I tried to off myself. Berger picks up the card again, studies it as he blows on his coffee. What with? Pills? Gillette Super Blue? He sees the way to handle this guy. Keep it light, a joker. Slide out from under without damage. It was a Platinum Plus, he says. The eyes are fixed upon him thoughtfully. They hold him still. So how does it feel to be home? Everybody glad to see you? Yeah, sure. Your friends, everything okay with them? Fine. It says here, no sisters, no brothers, right? Right, he says. Don't squirm, don't panic. Release is inevitable. Soon. Soon. Berger leans back in the chair, hands behind his head. It is hard to figure his age. He could be 25, he could be 40. So what do you want to work on, he asks. Pardon? Well, you're here. It's your money, so to speak. What do you want to change? He thinks then of his father, of their struggle to keep between them a screen of calm and order. I'd like to be more in control, I guess, so people can quit worrying about me. So who's worrying about you? My father, mostly. This is his idea. How about your mother? Isn't she worried? No. How come? I don't know. She's not a worrier. No? What does she do then? Do? Yeah, what's her general policy toward you? You get along with her all right? Yeah, fine. He is abruptly uncomfortable. An endless grilling process, like it was in the hospital. He forgot how it tightened him up, how much he used to hate it. Keep your finger there on that page and go back to page 31. Near the bottom, Cal is kind of reflecting on his relationship with Ray and Nancy. And we learn, maybe 2/3 of the way down the page, Ray and Nancy live in Glencoe. And he, Ray, takes the train in from his English Tudor castle, walking to the plaza from the station. He tells Cal he's crazy to drive. The train is the only way, he says. But Cal prefers his car. It gives him control over his schedule. And besides, riding the train has always made him nervous. So we're seeing this thread of control. I want you to keep an eye on that. And I want you to be thinking about, what control do we have ultimately? What kind of control do we have? When do we have control? There are things, so many things that are out of our hands that we like to think that we have some control over, but how much do we really have? Back to 42. You've got a funny look on your face, Berger says. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, he says, if you're a friend of Crawford's, you're probably okay. But I don't like this already. Look, what do you know about me? Have you talked to Crawford? No. The blue high beams have switched to low. The smile is benign. He told me your name, that's all. Told me to look out for you. Okay, I'll tell you some things. He turns his head slightly, taking in the narrow window at the left of the bookcase. Sunlight streams in from the slot, cutting a bright path across the carpeting. I had a brother. He's dead. It was an accident on the lake. We were sailing. He drowned. When? Summer before last. Staring now at the bookcase, he tries to make out the titles of the books from where he's sitting. He cannot. They're too far away. I suppose you and Crawford talked about it, Berger says. Every day. And you don't like to talk about it. He shrugs. Doesn't change anything. Pigeon, dull gray, lights on the cement window sill. It pecks inquiringly at the window for a moment, then flies off. Okay, Berger says. Anything else? No, he says. Yeah. About friends, I don't have any. I got sort of out of touch before I left. Oh? He does not respond to this technique, the comment in the form of a question. He had cured Crawford of it by telling him it was impossible to concentrate on what a person was saying if you were listening for his voice to go up at the end of the sentence. Well, okay, Berger says. I better tell you I'm not big on control. I prefer things fluid, in motion. But it's your money, so to speak. So to speak. Yeah, Berger laughs, reaching for his notebook. How's Tuesdays and Fridays? Twice a week. He shrugs. Control is a tough nut. I've got swim practice every night. That's a problem. So, how do we solve it? What has he just done? What has his therapist just done there?
I like taking some of his control.
Well, he's actually putting him in control, right? Here's the deal. These 2 days, that's what we're going to do. But I've got swim practice. Well, so is there control or is there not control?
I mean, I feel like telling him which days are gonna be is kind of like taking some of his control, it's making him go these days.
Right. What's the alternative?
You're not going to swim practice.
Certainly. So taking control, but also giving control. Yeah.
This is unrelated, but so he said his brother drowned, but his brother was on the swim team.
They're both on the swim team.
Sorry, that just like confused me.
That's something that we want to keep an eye on. Good to notice. Okay. A long, uncomfortable silence. He is tired and irritated. And again, there are no choices. It only looks as if there are. I guess I skip practice and come here twice a week, he says. Okie doke. It is over. And Berger walks him to the door. The schedule, he says, is based on patient ratings, scale of 1 to 10. The higher I rate, the fewer times you got to come. Example, you rate me 10, you only have to see me once a week. Conrad laughs. That's crazy. Hey, I'm the doctor. Berger grins at him. You're the patient. The worst. The first session has been gotten through. And the guy's not bad. At least he's loose. The exchange about the razor blades reminded him of something about the hospital. Nobody hid anything there. People kidded you about all kinds of stuff, and it was all right. It even helped to stay the flood of shame and guilt. Remembering that day at lunch when Stan Carmichael rose from his chair, pointing his finger in stern accusation, profane and unholy boy, sinner against God and man, father and mother, Robbie prompted him. And the Holy Ghost, Stan. And he ran it on. And the Holy Ghost. Fall on your knees. Repent of evil. Ask forgiveness for your profane and evil ways, Conrad Keith Jarrett. And he had nodded, eating on, while Robbie leaned across the table and asked, Stan, may I have your gingerbread? Just if you're not going to eat it, buddy. And Stan broke off his ravings to snarl petulantly. God damn it, Rob, you're a leech. You scrounge off my plate at every meal. It's disgusting. So, how do you stay open when nobody mentions anything? When everybody is careful not to mention it? Ah, shit. Jarrett, what do you want? Want people to say, gee, we're glad you didn't die? Poor taste. Poor taste. He's suddenly aware of the other people on the street, hurrying by, intent about their business. See? No one's accusing. They don't even seem repelled. As a matter of fact, they don't even notice. So, no need to be affected by them either, right? Still, as they pass him, he carefully averts his gaze to this notion of control. Do you have any questions? Anything new? Okay. Chapter 6. Cherry comes in, coatless, breathless, late from her lunch hour again. She gives Cal the practiced wide-eyed smile. What are you looking for, Mr. Jarrett? If it's Braddock, that's on Mr. Hanley's desk. I'll get it for you. That's all right, he nods curtly. I'm looking for the Sandlin account. I had it the other day. Oh, just a sec. I know right where that is. I'll bring it into you, okay? And again, the smile. A tall, big-boned girl who wears too much makeup and her skirts are too short. He's noticed lately that women aren't wearing their skirts short. Must be out of style again. And now it looks cheap, or else he's getting old, and the secretaries get younger every year. Cherry is 19. Lord, was he ever that young? Cherry. Now, who the hell would give a daughter that silly name? Nobody would. It's a fake, like the smile. He goes into his office and stands at the window, waiting for the file, staring out at the flat red brick complex of buildings to the west. Evanston Township High School. Strange how institutional buildings resemble one another. He can spot them a mile off. That one looks much like the evangelical home. He glances at his calendar. Wednesday, November 5th. Get with Ray this afternoon about Braddock. Call George Sandlin's brother, call Burns and Roush, set up a meeting for the 19th, duties, services, advice. A good thing you do not have to know who you are, Jarrett, in order to perform. Because today there is a minimum of information available on that subject. He hates fighting. And last night they had fought over London. I think you're being unreasonable, she said, not even daring to ask him about it. Why don't you just admit that it's you who doesn't want to go? Now, think about this. First of all, why does he have to be the one to ask? Why does Cal have to be the one who's asking? Any ideas? So, this distance between the mother and her son is extensive, right? I mean, it's just, what is up with the two of them? So Cal's got to do the asking. And if Cal asks, what does he know the answer is going to be? And I think a lot of you know the answer to this question. What is his answer going to be if Cal asks? If I ask you how you are, just casually in the hallway, what is the likelihood that you're going to say fine? Yeah.
Probably like 100%.
Yeah. Even if it's the worst day of your life, right? Even on the absolute worst day of your life, you're going to say fine. What is it that Conrad will say if Cal asks him if he wants to go to London for winter break? Yeah. But what does Cal know? What does Cal know about his own son? How often do we agree with things that our parents ask us about just to avoid any kind of conflict? What's that? Yeah, I think most of the time. I think most of the time that's the case. So why don't you just admit that it's you who doesn't want to go? You ask him then. What am I, the official interpreter here? You see him every day, don't you? Show him the travel folders. Give him the pitch. I don't see him any more than you do, she said coolly. What are you afraid of? It's a question. It requires a yes or a no. You certainly ask him enough other questions. How did he sleep? How does he feel? How did I sleep? How do I feel? Okay, he said. How did you sleep? How do you feel? That's not it, she said. If we could all just relax a little, if things could just be normal again. I don't want you to start asking me the questions. I want you to just stop. Now, what does she want?
Everything to go back to normal.
And what is that?
But like, kind of just like him not talking about like himself.
Certainly that, not being worried, right?
Like his brother coming back.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is the situation that they have, is that something that can ever be normal again? We've been talking about normalcy for a little over a year now. How long are we going to have to wear these masks? Do we know?
No.
When do I have to get revaccinated? Do we know? When are you going to be eligible for your vaccine? How many of you have gotten it? Has anybody, have you gotten it? Just one so far? Okay. How many in? Do you have both? One so far? How did you feel after?
My arm gets hurt, but nothing.
What is normal? When your life has been seriously upended, what then is normal? Can you go back to the way things were? They've lost a child, and the other one attempted suicide. And we still don't have a clear sense of why that necessarily happened. We're digging into that. How much of it has to be about control? I want you to just stop. Well, okay, fair enough. If she knew, though, that it is not only Conrad, but of himself that he's asking questions now. Basic, hopeless questions that mock him. Finger him as a joker, a bumbler, a poor dope. Who the hell are you? So why is he having this identity crisis? And really, what is Beth's problem? What is Beth's problem? Is she jealous?
Her problem is that she just wants with her son. She doesn't want her father to want so. Or not her father.
Her husband.
Her husband. So much about it.
What have they experienced? What have they suffered? They've suffered the loss of a child. A little over a year. And that's going to change their relationship. It often leads people to divorce. Not always, but it often does. Frequently a miscarriage can do that. They're not the same. And he's not asking her questions. And nobody's asking him questions either. It's about their son. So I think there's some jealousy there. And then the identity crisis. Who the hell are you? Well, I used to be this, but now I'm not so sure anymore. As he walks down the street, and who can step in time to that music for more than 30 seconds? He ducks into a drugstore for respite, buys himself a cigar. Who the hell are you? Follows him inside, leaning on the glass counter, waiting. Maybe everybody does it. That's the thought he hangs on to, like a drunk at a friendly lamppost. Maybe everybody asks themselves, who the hell am I? Who in the world knows who he is all the time? It's not a question to ask a guy over a sandwich at the quick lunch. If you must ponder it, then do it alone at isolated periods with long intervals in between so as not to drive yourself bats. But how do we, when we are in some sort of crisis like this, is it best to keep it to yourself? No. You got to talk about things. You've got to talk about things. I'm the kind of man who, He's heard this phrase a million times at parties, in bars, in the course of normal conversation. I'm the kind of man who, instinctively, he listens, tries to apply any familiar terms to himself, but without success. Arnold Bacon. There was a man who knew who he was. Years since, he's thought about him. In 1967, Ray noticed his obit in the Tribune. Nationally known tax attorney dies at 72. Tragic loss to the profession. ABA president says he was 17 years old when he first met Arnold Bacon. 17, a senior in high school. His plans for the future not extending past the next afternoon. You know, and at that time, you ask a 17-year-old senior in high school, what do you want to do? My junior right now at home, he's getting a lot of mail from schools. I ask him what he wants to do. He doesn't know. And I assure him that's okay. He doesn't know where he's going to end up. And maybe we'll end up being able to save a little bit more money for him in the process. Maybe he'll get a job. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I just want to let him kind of enjoy the rest of his high school career and not worry. Hopefully, he's not worried. But that notion of your plans for the future not extending past the afternoon, that's great. And Bacon had come up to him at, of all places, a Christmas tea in the lounge of the evangelical home. Well, young man, what are you planning to do with the rest of your life? Oh, what a question. He had laughed politely, looking for a neat and pleasant exit to the conversation. But Bacon was serious. I've looked at your grades, he said. You're smart. You know the importance of a good education. You ever thought about going into law? You thought about being a soldier of fortune after reading The Three Musketeers, or a fireman, a professional athlete. He was a good tennis player. He was well coordinated. He learned games quickly. Those vague and wistful occupations faded out of the picture after that December afternoon. He did more than think about the law. He applied and was accepted to pre-law at Wayne University. He took a part-time job clerking in Bacon's office. He graduated from Wayne and was accepted into law school at the University of Michigan, backed by Bacon's influential recommendation, he later found out, from one of the deans. A lucky accident. Bacon took him on, decided to be his mentor, told him what courses to take and which ones to stay away from, which scholarships to apply for, which professors he must not miss. He came to his aid financially whenever it was necessary. It was the closest thing to a father-son relationship. It was a father-son relationship, he thought. Bacon had one daughter, no sons. Bacon's daughter might have made a smashing lawyer, but women lawyers were rarer then and suspect. And he had this reverence, this vast, eclipsing love for the law that had to be coalesced. He needed a student, an apprentice. He needed to know that he was leaving his baby protected. Bacon had not approved of law students who married while they were in school. Diffusion of energy, he called it. And so, of course, everything had changed after Beth. Bacon was a man of strong views. He had principles, integrity. He knew who he was and where he stood on certain, what he considered inviolable issues. Bacon had been Cal's first actual experience with loss. When he was 11, he learned the association of that word with death. The director of the evangelical home had called him in to tell him of his loss. His mother had passed away, another term he was more familiar with, having heard it used frequently in connection with the elderly, wraith-like beings who inhabited the east wing of the home, coming and going very quickly. He remembered the feeling of awe that possessed him that day. He was aware that an event of some magnitude had happened to him. Someone close to him had passed away, and it was his loss, and his alone. For a short time, he became a figure of some importance to his peers, and he was invited to the director's office for cocoa and sermons on love and loss and how a Christian deals with grief. The only difference he perceived was that he no longer had any visitor or presents on his birthday or at Christmas. Well, that wasn't true, really. He had presents, they just weren't from anyone he knew. But he did not, at the time, understand the meaning of loss and of grief. He still had not experienced those words at all. He grieved over Arnold, though. Not when he died, it was too late then, years since he had seen him. But when he discovered that it had been a business venture after all, that had felt like grief. It was grief. He and Beth had together repaid the money. It was, as Bacon pointed out to him, a financial obligation. It took 5 years, but it was not a hardship. Beth had her own money, he had a good scholarship, and they hardly felt the monthly bill. But Arnold's indifference after the marriage, that had hurt him so much. It had undermined him, taken away something that he hadn't even realized he possessed, and he had regarded it so lightly, so casually. Sherry swings into the room with her smile to put the papers on his desk. Seductively, that's how she does it. She works hard at it, too hard. She has a good telephone voice, that's about it. Can't take dictation worth a damn, and she won't file. He wonders where she found this one. She must have had to do some hunting for it. Her boyfriend goes to Northwestern, gets out of class at 5 o'clock each day, she's informed them. She's firm about leaving the office at exactly that time. Her habit of sneaking error-spotted letters on the desk for his signature as she gives him the look of wide-eyed innocence drives him crazy. What would Bacon have to say about a secretary like this? Calvin, you get what you deserve. I'm the kind of man who hasn't the least idea what kind of man I am. There. Some definition. He's no closer than he was back in the director's office. Back when he listened to the sermons, his mind wandering, not even aware then that he was searching. So how does a Christian deal with grief? There is no dealing. He knows that much. There's simply the stubborn, mindless hanging on until it is over, until you are through it. But something has happened in the process. The old definitions, the neat, knowing pigeonholes have disappeared, or else they no longer apply. His eyes move again to the calendar. Wednesday, November 5th. Of course. Obvious. All the painful self-examination, the unanswered questions. At least he knows what is wrong today. Today is Jordan's birthday. Today, he would have been 19. So, we are 6 chapters in. And there is a study guide in our agenda. And it takes us up to pretty far, actually. So we're looking at probably up to page 20 or number 22 on this study guide. So there's lots of different things for you to be thinking about. So within the agenda, if you would make a copy of this, if you haven't already. And I know that some people have. And I want you to start working through some of these questions. Some of them really challenge you to think hard about what's going on in the book and about some other things. So do that hard thinking. And that will certainly take us up to the very end. I'm not expecting us to get all the way through all 22 questions. All right? Any questions for me at the moment? Okay. And all those numbers in the parentheses are page numbers.
I've done like the first like 5 other than this one because I don't like understand it at all. It's just the first one.
Oh, just the first one.
Yeah, I don't like get like the sonnet C and where's that at? Oh, it's that one. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I thought it was that, and then it said like connect with the following. So I didn't figure. Okay, all right, thank you.